Sitting here, looks like I'll have to do this show probably by myself tonight. It's I guess it's hard to get good help. Well, no, actually, it's not that hard. What's going on, fellas?
Yo, what's up, man? Happy to be here on the debut of HVAC Tech Talk.
Yeah. I've been looking forward to it for 2 weeks now. So
Yeah, well, I appreciate you inviting me, man.
yeah. I got Bill and Wade, Gil. So
I'm not very good at this this YouTube stuff and talking on camera. It's just I gotta get used to this whole thing.
Mike, I tell you what you don't want to do is what I was just doing was I was on my other channel or on my other browser watching the actual YouTube channel, wondering why I couldn't see myself moving. I forgot that there was a delay. That got real confusing for a minute.
That's funny. I'm actually going to do that now so I can see the
having like an out of experience or something worse.
now on the side, guys, you have like the live chat. You can click on that and it shows the chat right here on the same screen.
Oh, does it? I didn't see that.
Yeah.
All I see
Very
is
cool.
Live comments. It does say live comments. How about that shit? Hey, there they are.
Oh, yeah, I didn't see that.
Yeah.
Live comments. It does.
We got Randy in here and Susie.
Hey, there they are.
Steven.
Appreciate
Yeah, somebody's got to turn the YouTube volume off.
But yeah, it's been a rough week at work. I tell you what, we're just now starting to move into those no heating calls. So it's been something else. Friday was crazy. So I ran
just
like
all no heat calls.
Yeah, well, I had some heat checks, but those are simple. You bust right through those. But then I'm one of the top techs, so they send me on a lot of the no heat calls, and I'm finding weird shit, brand new systems, just installed this summer, and guys didn't turn on the heat valve. They didn't flip the little switch on the heat valve, and so the system didn't come on.
What's strange about that is first time in my career that I've had where we're just moving into the no heat season, and I had 3 customers, commercial accounts, and all 3 of those customers within the last 2 weeks I found this out. All 3 of those customers didn't have any gas going to the rooftop units.
Yep.
I think in the last couple of years I maybe one or two, but this season anyway, 3 of them within 2 weeks just blew my mind.
We have a brand new building here in Richmond we did that it's got a dozen rooftop units and a bunch of makeup airs. Mm-hmm. And we usually don't start the heat in the summer. We'll come back in the fall and start the heat. So they called us up and said they were cool. And we go over there and they never even set up their gas account. There was a big old lock from the gas company on the meter.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
We've been seeing a lot of guys that don't set up propane. Like we have a lot of like propane 90% furnaces and stuff like that. And guys are not setting up gas pressure, and these things are just too much moisture. And like I went on one, it was a 6-year-old 96% gas furnace or whatever, fucking heat exchanger, he's done. They're rusted out. like falling apart. And the guy's like, how does it happen? I'm like, dude, whoever put this in for you didn't know what they were doing. I'm like, that's why I like my guys, there's an install startup checklist. Like once you get it in, like that doesn't mean your job is done as an installer. Like there's so much more stuff to do.
So did they just not set it up properly or convert it over to propane?
Well, that's what I thought at first. And to be honest, it was so messed up. It's at my shop. I'm going to look at it. It looked like one thing I noticed, I don't think it had the screws through the burners to the diverting screws. I do think they changed the orifices, but some of the other things I'm not sure. But I know the gas pressure for a single stage is supposed to be 11 inches of water column, and it was like 7.5.
Well, you'd be surprised how strong
11 inches of water column.
We did when I was teaching school. We did a experiment over at the fire department, and they came over and they wanted to do it and all that too. So what we did was we took a regular gas-fired furnace, hooked LP directly to it, no conversion, using a natural gas valve, everything. And we ran it. We tried to blow it up, we couldn't blow it up. It got hot, but we couldn't blow it up.
You won't blow it up, but your air to gas ratio is going to be off, and it's gonna soot up, and you're gonna gum up that secondary heat exchanger in less than a year. I guarantee.
Oh yeah, we ran it hot.
Now,
We got rid of the safety, so we were trying. We couldn't get it to blow.
Now, Gil, if you gum up that secondary part of the heat exchanger, is that I'm almost thinking that soot is just going to attract moisture and help, or maybe just rust it out faster, or is it like an acidic soot that just eats away at it?
Well, what'll happen is if you soot it up bad enough, you don't got to worry about the rusting part. That you'll clog up the secondary heat exchanger. That your flame will just go out. You'll see, because it won't be able to travel down to the secondary. You're never going to produce the moisture.
It'll be clogged shut, is what you're saying.
Oh yeah.
Wow.
It'll clog all the way shut, and that's why you'll see a lot of them, especially on the closed burner furnaces, where up here, instead of the burners being open, it's in that little closed box. It'll either trip the high limit. I mean, not the high limit, the rollout on the side, or the top of your furnace will be so hot you can't touch it. You figure on those furnaces, the hottest part should be like 7 to 8 inches inside of it. So if you can't sit your hand on top of that furnace, it's because it's rolling back.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had one of those the other day. It was a Temp Star that had the enclosed burners, and
it's ICP, pretty much carrier.
Yeah. I went there on a heat check. The upstairs unit was a train, and it had a bad gas valve. And the downstairs unit was working. I'm like, well, at least that one's working. The heat rises anyway. So I sent it to be quoted for the gas valve. At 6:15 the next morning, that customer calls me. She says, hey, my downstairs heat is not working now. It quit in the middle of the night. I'm like, well, it was fine. I mean, I checked it all out. It was all fine. And so I went there that day to check it, and the damn gas valve, it was a smart valve. It went out. It went out on that unit also. So she has both systems with bad gas valves.
Yeah, for $1,200 a pop.
Well, one is a break. More than one is something else is going on. They've been working on her gas lines. Maybe she got some wet gas, some dirty gas, something.
Yeah.
I don't know, Steve. I mean, that was my question, but she wasn't home. She's a doctor, so she wasn't there. She had her son there, and he didn't know anything. So I don't know. It's a bad day for her, because, like you said, those things are expensive, especially that smart valve. It's not very cheap at all.
Oh, hell no. Hey, Bill, are you commenting through YouTube?
What's up?
Are you commenting back through YouTube?
Yeah, I'm just switching over to my other browser window that I have open.
Okay, yeah, I'm doing the same thing, because I was gonna say I see this, but I was like, how the hell do I write back to people?
Yeah, I couldn't figure out a quick way to do it just over here on the fly. So I'm like, I'll just open up another browser and go back to the way I normally do it.
See, I'm not used to seeing it on that end, so I don't know what it looks like on your guys' end. Yes.
Now I heard, I don't know if it was Wade or one of you guys. I heard somebody mention dirty gas getting in systems, and keep in mind I do commercial, so this residential stuff is very interesting to me. But the dirty gas, now what exactly is that, and is it common?
So we do a lot of commercial too, but we have a couple different grades of gas that we have depending on the facility and things like that. So, like, our government contracts have line dryers and cleaners, so they get significantly dirtier gas that comes to them. And unfortunately, it travels on the same lines as some of the residential lines. They're all the same. So we do experience from time to time where mostly moisture in the lines, it really just tears this stuff up.
The gumminess. You ever get that? The gummy, it's like jelly.
Yep, it gets right into the diaphragms and all that. And
really, like jelly inside the gas lines?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
It's blowing my mind.
So, and the part that sucks is the only way to fix it is to cut both ends of the line and run what's called a pig through it. So you try and get this wire or rope or whatever you got to do from point A to point B, so that you can get this pig that's supposed to clean the line out of all this stuff, and you just pull it right through this line, and it's supposed to scrape the walls, and it doesn't work just once. You're talking multiple times.
Now, is that pig thing like what is it called? I seen a video by Brian Orr where he's got some sort of foam ball that he puts through the line sets when you're flushing them out. Is that the same sort of
Kinda like
idea?
that.
Yeah, same concept.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Somebody said in the chat.
We had one down at Fort Lee that they use the yellow fuse pipe. I don't know if anybody's used that. It's not CST, it's not dragon pipe, it's actual fused plastic where they bring these machines out and melt it together.
Yeah,
Oh, I've seen that.
Yeah. And they ran it right through a creek, which you can do with it. No big deal. But the velocity and the volume of the gas going through the line, there was a pinhole leak, and it would suck the water from the creek right into the line and carry it with it right up to the meters and freeze right in the screen of the meters. We were knocking ice out all winter until they could fix it.
Amazing.
Yeah, this guy Ricky Hertz says that we have a lot of dirty gas piping in Boston. Gas company has been paying for gas valves.
Yeah.
You ever heard this? That up north, sometimes they'll put a little bit of propane in the natural gas to make it burn hotter.
No, I hadn't heard that.
Yeah, I heard that. I went to a class. You guys ever heard of Joe Cunningham? He's kind of like one of those like sales gurus.
No.
Techs. Well, I went to his class in Dallas and got to meet a lot of cool people. This is years ago, but I had a couple of guys that own companies in Minnesota, and they told me that. And then I started asking some other people, thinking the guy was full of shit, and they're like, no, they really do that. It brings up the, I don't know, the burn or something like that. It just makes it burn a little bit hotter. It's not enough that you would, the odor. It's kind of like the refrigerants, the propane without they take out the smell, so you don't smell it, but it's just enough to increase its burning temperature or some shit like that.
Yeah, you get a higher BTU output.
Yeah.
Just stuff.
Yeah, I had a brain fart and wasn't saying the scientific way.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it allows you to run less gas, and you get more or equal to BTU output with the same. So if you're running 1 cubic foot and you add, just a little bit of propane, you could run a 0.8 cubic foot and get the same BTU output.
Exactly.
But if you're adding a little bit of propane, does that, I guess, make the flame oranger, more sooty, and does it require further adjustment on the gas valve in order to account for that?
Yeah, I don't think it's enough to even know. I mean, obviously I'm in Baltimore, so I've never seen it myself, but yeah, it is what it is. Hey, EPA, this isn't my show, but I know Mike's not going to talk about that tonight, man. This is his new show, and that's all he's worried about.
Yeah, it's the new show, man.
Man, you got the new show and you got the EPA already in here?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I got great guests on my first show, so let's
I got
going.
my EPA card, so I'm good.
Yeah.
I got mine too.
It only took me 17 tries, but I got it.
Hey, look, de minimis release is a relative term. We're
Speaking
working with 6 ounces or 600 pounds. De minimis release is a relative term.
Speaking of EPA, my wife, she's in chat, Cindy. She just took her EPA, and she scored second in her class. She only missed 5 out of 100 questions. That's pretty good.
That's better than what I did.
Yeah, I think it's actually better than what I did too. So,
Damn, what test you taking is 100 questions?
Yeah, the new one, dude. The new one's a pain in the ass, man.
Oh,
I took it like 2 years ago, the new one, just to get my universal license.
Oh yeah, I took that shit a long time ago, so I'm good.
I don't know. Maybe Gil took it about the same time as me, but there was only like 20 questions.
Yeah, I was gonna say it definitely wasn't 100 questions. I was done that bitch in like 15 minutes, and I was double checking my answers.
There's like 4 sections to it.
Yep.
20 questions in each one.
Yeah, well, I already got it. They can't take it now.
And
universal.
You have to pass, like, the core is the first part. You have to pass core and one other section in order to be able to get a card. Then you only get a card for what sections you pass for. So to pass all 4, you get your universal.
Well, I think that's what I did. Maybe it's been a long time ago. I've had mine for a while because I'm 36, 37. I don't know, something like that. And I had that before. I got my state master's license when I was 27, and I had that before that. So I've had it for 13, 14 years. EPA license.
Yeah, then you take it, then you forget everything about it over time. I mean, it's just a bunch of shit that you never have to deal with.
Yeah,
Well,
it's just rules and regulations.
Well, plus
No,
the only thing the EPA license says is
you are. I'm not showing you my card.
yeah. The thing is all it is saying that you can buy refrigerant and you know how to handle, recover, reclaim it, all that kind of BS. Like so many guys are like, oh yeah, I can work on this. I got my EPA license. That doesn't mean dick, dude. That doesn't mean anything.
That is every apartment maintenance company in the world. All we need is an EPA license. You're good to go.
Yeah, that doesn't mean anything. And that's what happens with these. Like really at supply houses, you're supposed to have a master's license and an EPA card to open up an account. And the sad part is that's why Goodman gets a bad name, because a lot of the supply house by me is actually close to where my office is. And I know that they sell to these guys that come in, they went and got their EPA license and they come in to buy stuff. And I'm like, does that guy got a master's license? And they're like, well, I'm like, no, well, dude, like, come on. Like I spend a lot of money with you because I think you're cool, man. But that kind of shit is how you're cutting our legs out from under us. Like, don't do that shit, dude. Or I'm not gonna buy stuff from you anymore. And he was like, oh, and I know he is. And I've started backing out some. I don't like that shit, man.
Well, I don't know how it is in residential anymore. I haven't been in residential in almost 15 years, but commercial, we start getting these national accounts that start sending shit in with the GCs and things like that. And it kills us because they expect you to warranty it and everything, the whole 9 yards. And I know just every day looking online, I see all this stuff come in for Mr. Cool and everything else, where all these homeowners are buying stuff and just want people to put it in. It's got to be a nightmare.
Yeah, I've seen a couple of Facebook ads about that, Mr. Cool, install it yourself, or like you said, Wade, I've even I've heard a couple of guys mention in Facebook about a customer will buy it and be like, hey, can you install this for me?
Yeah, we don't do that shit.
That feels like it's just a slap in the face.
It is.
We do a good amount of commercial stuff too, but go on Walmart's website. I mean, and actually dig. You can buy Train, Carrier. If you dig through their website, you can buy equipment through Walmart's website.
You can buy anything through Walmart's. You can buy a casket. I mean,
yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. You can, man. You can buy anything. You can buy Goodman systems on there.
As long as it's not a Goodman casket.
You're in Walmart one day and this guy drags a casket into the return line because it's not long enough or something.
Yeah. Bitch wouldn't fit in here.
Or wide enough.
I mean, if I was rich enough, I would just buy one and have it sent to the store just to pick it up. That would be hilarious. Oh, yeah, is my casket here?
Or if you were like divorced and you had like a baby mama and you like sent that to her, like, happy birthday.
Yeah.
Don't try to keep my kids, bitch. What up, Yamo? I've never actually talked to you, buddy. How you doing, man?
I'm fine, Gil. Thank you.
No, you're welcome, man.
Yama, you still rubbing two sticks together to recover?
What?
You still rubbing two sticks together to recover?
I still use my propane tank and a compressor from a fridge to recover refrigerant.
Yeah, they're still waiting to send his stuff to him. So he's just getting a big crate full of stuff. So
yeah. Well, I have a new cold gun today, but I still waiting for other prices.
Show
like
us
a recovery machine with the tank.
Yeah, show us the cool gun, Yamo. You sent me a picture of it earlier.
Yeah.
Does he work for himself or does he work for a company?
He works for himself.
Do they have any kind of licensing down there?
No.
None. They don't have any license.
I took it apart.
Oh, you got the good one. That's the one I like, man. The Viper one.
Yeah,
it's way better than those fucking rip-off artists at New Calgon. All they do is steal other people's technology and put their name on it.
And then jerk up the price.
Yeah. They just have enough money to over advertise everybody else. Yeah, it's good, man. I got the same one.
Shit, and it did not last. We're talking like maybe one job, and I really felt like just shit in the box.
Yeah, well, I love Refrigeration Technologies, and they're not a sponsor of mine or nothing. I just really love Mr. John Pastorillo. Talked to him several times, talked to his son, Mike, and they're just really cool people, and I would rather support them. So I pay extra money to buy. That's what I stock, all Refrigeration Technologies products in my shop, and I'll pay a little bit extra. You know,
how do you say his name? Is it Mike Pastorelli?
Pastorillo, John Pastorillo.
John Pastorillo. Oh, his son is Mike, isn't it?
Yeah, his son's Mike.
Isn't he? Okay. One of my videos, I was brazing something, and my torch got a little bit too close to my face, right? And I just happened to be using what is that, Viper wet rag that day, and I was talking about it in the video, and I said, I was like, John Pastorella, if you're watching this, please do me a favor and come up with some sort of flame resistant beard oil for me, some sort of hot block I can use on my beard so I don't melt this thing off one day.
Well, they have that gel. You can gel it right up with that.
That's a good idea. Yeah, that I've seen that or they even have that spray gel you can buy, right? That hot blocking spray gel.
I use it, man. I like it.
Yeah. I wonder if it moisturizes. If it's got coconut oil, maybe I'll use it.
I don't know. It's pretty good.
And mix it in there.
And then the Nylog, I use the Nylog by the Trodes. I mean, I use it on everything.
You put it on sandwiches.
Man, I'll rub it on cuts and stuff like that.
Flavored water.
Yeah.
It's good stuff.
Yeah, Nylog is good stuff.
I like giving it to rookies and telling them, go ahead, put this on. And just watch them just all over their fingers and everything else because they don't know any better.
Yeah, a little bit goes a long way.
It does, yeah. Yeah, you don't have to just squeeze the hell out of that thing. Just a little dab will do you. Well,
that's like today I had to go I sold this furnace that I knew was going to be a rough job because there's a big ass 80-gallon water heater sitting there that we had to disconnect. Thank God it was no soldering or nothing. Just shut the water off to the house, and it had like the what is it where it goes into the CPVC and you just like the union looking fittings at the water heater. Anyway, he's doing some gas pipe and like he doesn't realize he dips it in there and he's like gobs it and he's like rolling it around the pipe. I'm like, bro, just kind of like wipe it off the side a little bit. Like he's like scooping the shit out of it. It's like falling on the floor. I'm like, what are you doing, man? I'm like, you just waste half the can on 2 fucking joints. Like, what do you do? He's like, I'm sorry, Gil.
It's like how a 5-year-old makes a peanut butter sandwich.
Yeah, like I was just watching him, and then in the summertime, he was braising a 3/8 joint. Dude, this thing was so cherry red. I was like, you gonna braise that? He's like, yeah, I needed to get hot. I was like, dude, I think you fused the fucking copper together, bro. I was like, I think you're good. Yeah, he's not gonna make it.
We have a question in the chat. Susie Dunn says, can Mexicans grow beards? Yamo?
No.
Yeah.
Can Mexicans
not like Bill, but yes I can, but I don't like it.
You don't like it? Oh.
¿Por qué?
No.
¿Por qué?
Yamo would look cool with a beard like Bill's.
Yeah.
No, it would take at least 4 years or more to have a beard like that.
Yeah, that's what I got, about 4 years.
Yeah, I got a beard like that on my testicles. Yeah, so
he's over there braiding his nuts.
Yeah, so people know that I have testicular cancer, so I do that to kind of like I tie it around and support them. I make like a little nest.
Wear pants to the beach still.
Yeah, works out good. I just cover it up. Like, oh hey, what's that? It's like I got like wild things in my pants.
Looks like you got a tail.
Yeah.
So Wade actually has a story for us. I don't know. I know you guys don't know much about Wade, but Wade tells stories on Facebook, and they're pretty hilarious. He told one when we had him on the other show, and he's got a pretty good one for us tonight. Y'all guys want to hear it?
Let's go.
Yep, I'm down.
All right, so 90% of everything I tell in my stories is true. It's all from experience in the field. The other 10% is I usually change the names. That's about it. Protect the innocent. So anybody ever been to a Southern tent revival?
No.
Okay. Here, let me give you my impression of a Southern tent revival. And there's nothing wrong with it. Don't get me wrong. But they will make you jump up and confess to everything you have ever done in your life and make you feel like absolute shit about it to the point you're just giving money out. Singing, dancing, the whole 9 yards. All you're missing is snakes.
Sounds like one.
That's important to this story. So anybody ever done any work at a preacher's house?
Yes.
Yeah.
Nope.
Now imagine a Southern preacher from one of those tent revivals at her house. And this lady was about 4 foot nothing. And she got up on a chair when we got there and looked us dead in the eye from that chair and said, God sent you to fix my equipment because I cannot sleep. I cannot save your soul if I cannot sleep. I looked at my helper and said, oh, shit, here we go. So we go out to take a look at her unit. And it is a Sears special, which pretty much means it was everybody else's shit with their sticker on it. I'm going to keep backing Sears because I got that restraining order from their store. So fuck them. So we go out there, we take a look at it. And this lady comes outside and she literally brings a Bible out and tries to exorcise the demons from her condenser while we're working on it.
Wow.
I mean, this 4'0" lady. And she is there talking. I mean, she is trying to exorcise the demons. She's spraying holy water, the whole 9 yards, right?
Does she have her EPA license?
Yeah, no. She definitely does not have her EPA license.
God gave it to her for free.
That's right.
At this point, my helper, he's about a week into this trade. He's looking at me like, what the hell do I do? Hold on, just hang out over here. So she starts talking about how she needs this fix. She can't sleep. She starts going over this stuff over and over again. She's praying over the unit, praying over us, the whole 9 yards. And finally, I'm just done with it. And I'm like, ma'am, I need you to step back. I'm pretty much your last chance working on this thing. And she goes, Jesus is my last chance. I said, well, when Jesus puts on a tool belt, comes down here with a set of gauges, I'll buy him a beer. Until then, I need you to step back. That was the wrong damn thing to say. Because I tell you what, she broke out every passage in the Bible on us. You know what the whole problem with her unit was?
Had too much holy water in the igniter.
I bent that shit back with my fingers and got the hell up out of there. She chased us down the driveway with her Bible and her holy water, trying to exorcise the demons from us.
That's crazy.
Didn't work.
It didn't work at all.
I've had
it
before where we went to a church that we do work for, and they had gave us a little bit of money, and we finished. It was commercial, and we finished. And the guy at the end, I was like, "So, all right, boss, I wanted to let you know my guys got everything done. We're all good." I'm like, I'm just trying to, collect the final payment, and we're good to go. I'll get out of your hair. And he goes, well, Gil, he's like, I talk to Jesus from time to time. I was like, yes, sir. I'm sure you do. And he said, well, I talked to him and he said that I shouldn't have to pay for this. I thought he was joking. I really, because the guy is kind of funny. Yeah. And I was like, oh, and he was like, so, he's like, yeah, Jesus told me that this is a good deed on you because you're a good man. And I'm like, oh, this motherfucker's being serious. I'm like, dude, come on, man. I'm like, I don't feel like, I was like, boss, I'm like, you should have told me that Jesus said this before we did the work. Because then I could have worked it out with him. I said, but I sat there, I got nowhere. And that was like, it was like $1,200 that we just left, and I'll never do work for him again. So it was a whole long drawn story, but he did that for like 20 minutes until if I had hair, I would have pulled it out.
Well, I'll never forget that little Southern Tent Revival preacher dancing around and hopping up and down and, falling to the ground and twitching and everything else. I was like, oh my God.
That was all during the same service call?
Huh?
That was all during the same service call?
All during the same service call.
Very cool.
Yeah, this guy was good though, because he had me like partway through. Because like I said, he kept like, I was going to do it because Jesus believed in me. Jesus sent me there for a reason. Like he started having me thinking like, man, I'm a piece of shit. Why am I trying to charge this guy? You know what I mean? Like, I started like questioning myself. Like, I don't know. Maybe Jesus did send me here to do this shit for free.
So you should have pulled out the invoice and be like, well, the invoice isn't from Jesus, so I don't know. He didn't place this service call. Yeah,
I'm like, well, if you got Jesus' credit card number, let me get it, and we'll be good. Until you get his
wine, water to wine. They didn't say anything about Visa and MasterCard.
Yeah, until you get his old Amex card, you got to pay there, Hoss.
Should have told him, like, hey, just ask Jesus to put a burning bush in your house for heat if you don't want me to fix this for
you. I had something interesting. I had something interesting happen to me last week. Well, no, this week. This lady, I've went to her house a couple of times. She has dementia, and she will go and turn her breaker off if she gets cold in the house. you know, in the summertime, she'll go and turn her breaker off instead of going to the thermostat and adjusting the thermostat, or, you know, but she forgets that she turns her breaker off. So she'll call us and say, I don't have any AC. Well, I've then got to the point I'll go to her house and I'll turn her breaker back on, and the system comes on. We're all good and golden. Well, she called the other day and she says, I have no heat. So I told the dispatcher, I said, well, just tell her to turn the breaker on. I'm busy, you know. She says, no, you got to go. So I go, and truly, she didn't have any heat. Her system wasn't working. The heat strips were coming on. The blower wasn't working. So, and it was a Honeywell 6000 thermostat. And I'm not really familiar with them because I came from the commercial side. So, you know, the first one I'd really ever dealt with. But anyways, I'm there. I'm checking out the furnace. I said, well, hell, everything's working. I kick it in AC mode. Blower comes on, works fine. I said, well, you know, dealing with past thermostats I'd worked with, I said, well, it must be a bad thermostat. It's not powering green on, you know, on heat. So, but I'm laying there on the floor because all the wiring's at the bottom of her furnace and everything. Well, hold on. Let me stop right there. When I arrived to her home.
Hello. Hey, Mama.
Okay. When I arrived to her home, she was all decked out. She had a wig on, makeup, and all the stuff, but she was in her nightgown. And I'm like, okay. So anyways, I'm in there and I'm doing all this. I'm laying on the floor and I'm figuring, you know, I'm thinking it's the thermostat, but I'm checking everything. She walks over and just kind of like spread eagles right on top, right over
back.
my head. And I'm like, I jump up and I'm like, hold on, ma'am, I'll move. You know, she said, oh no, honey. She says, you're just fine. Stay where you are. And I get up and I was like, look, ma'am, if you got a bad thermostat, I can put one in, $150, and you know, we'll be good. So she said, nah, that's a little too expensive. I'll have to think about it.
She don't want my prices then.
Yeah.
Right.
So I leave. Well, the next day I get a call from my dispatcher and she says that this lady wants me to call her. And I'm like, well, I'm not calling her, you know, because I told the dispatcher that day, I said, look, I said, if this lady calls, you tell her I no longer work here. I don't care what you tell her, but I'm not going back to her house.
She wants some of that ass.
Yeah. And I told my wife about it, you know, and stuff. But I, you know, she says, well, you have to call her. She won't talk to anyone else but you. And I'm like, damn it. I was like, well, tell, you know, and I said, tell my boss to call her. She said, no, you know, she won't. She said, you only. So I call her, and this is what I got on the phone. Hey, Mike. She says, I went to Lowe's and bought a thermostat. She says, I'm cooking you a big lunch. And she says, if you'll come put this thermostat in for me, I'll really make it worth your while.
Oh.
You should have took your wife over with you.
And you know, I'm like, I said, I can't install this thermostat for free for you. I said, I'll lose my job. She says, no, I'll pay you. She says, it may not be money, but I'll pay you. And at this point, I just hang up on her. And I call my boss, and he won't answer his phone. I text him. I'm like, hey, you need to call me right now. It's important. So he calls me, and I start telling him story. And dude, he was laughing his ass off.
He called her up, like, I'll come over and do it.
Well, he was laughing his ass off, and I'm like, look, man, I ain't going back to his house. You know, her house. I said, you can fire me right now. I'm not going back. And he said, oh no. He says, you're definitely not going back. He said, we'll put a note in the case and just tell her that you no longer service this area. And I said, yeah, I'm not going to service that area for sure. And
you don't service below the waist.
So she called back. She called back yesterday morning. Okay. And they sent another technician to her house. And I talked to him yesterday evening. We had our company picnic, and I talked to him, and he said, man, she is freaking weird. He said, she stalked me the whole time I was there. And he said, I put her thermostat in. He says, and I charged her just a a call fee, just $65. He didn't even charge her the $96 that it cost to put it in. He
Dude,
said,
tell one of your helpers to go over there and take one for their team, man. Just dick it down, call it a day, and you customer for life, bro. That's called advertisement, man.
I looked at him. I said, "Why'd you only charge her $65? Did you take the rest out in trade?" And he just looked at me, and I'm like, "Yeah, she's crazy. She tried to put the gray furry clam in my face."
Yeah, at least a Hummer,
That's what a good adventure for a brand new rookie in your company. Send them over there to adjust her thermostat.
Well, I tried to get the dispatcher to send this guy. He's pretty much a rookie, and he's been shadowing me. They send him on diagnostic calls and stuff like that so I can teach him. And I tried to get them to send him, and she wouldn't do it. So that would have been hilarious.
That's funny. Hey, I'll be back, brother. I got to go off, so I'll probably leave my camera on, just mute my microphone, and I'll be back. I shouldn't be that long.
Okay, man.
All right, fellas.
All right.
Okay, do it.
Have fun, Gil.
I can just keep him down there. So, yeah, it was definitely an interesting call, and I ain't going back. I can grant you that.
Man, I must have one of them faces because I never get anything like that. Of course, I don't really want anything like that from that sort of customer, but kind of makes me jealous.
Hey guys, do you mind going to homosexual persons' houses?
No.
Now, I went to one a couple of weeks ago, Yama. I didn't have any problems. That guy liked you.
Yeah, do you remember that episode?
Yeah.
It was such weird time.
¿Cómo se dice en español, Yamo? ¿Es Jota?
Joto.
Joto. Ah, sí, es uno Joto.
Yeah, that guy was. I was there to clean a mini split, and then the guy said in short words, the guy said, "Hey, can you clean a window checker?" And I say, "Yeah, of course." But the window checker was almost out on the ground, so, fuck. And I was there with my helper, and then I was turning on the window checker before I took her apart. That's what I like to do always. And then the guy started to look at me in a weird way. So, oh shit, here we go. Then so I need somebody to hang out. Necesito alguien para salir, Bill.
¿Necesito alguien para decir?
Yeah. Then I need a new partner. I was trying to keep my patience, but I couldn't. So I pick up my tools, and then I stand up and I say to the customer's face, "Look, man, if you like banana up your ass,
in the tailpipe."
He sounded like a minion when he says that. Say banana.
If you like banana or pito, we call that, Bill.
Pito?
In your ass.
Plátano? Pito?
Cock.
Un plátano? Un pito? Ah, sí, no quiero pito.
Yeah,
no
if
quiero
you
pito.
if you like that, so be my guest. It's your body. I don't give a fuck. But don't mess with me. So he continues to do it, and I just grab my tools. I didn't charge anything for that mini split clean. I go to my truck and start it up, and I did a tiny burnout outside of that house, customers.
¿Tú tienes una mujer? Llamo.
What?
¿Una esposa? ¿Tú tienes una esposa o una mujer?
Tenía novia, Bill.
¿Sí? ¿Novia o novio?
No, girlfriend, Bill.
Ah.
I don't like their voice.
So we did a house in Virginia Beach. This is 20 years ago. It's the owner of a large company. So, we do residential for the owners of the big companies. That's about it. We get out there, and the access to the attic where the equipment was, it was a nice walk-in stairs up to the attic, but you had to cut through the bedroom. and the closet in the bathroom was actually where the stairs were that went up. And they happened to be of the liking male persuasion, and they were the high end liking male persuasion, because when you walked into their upstairs, there was wood and stone penises everywhere.
Oh my!
On the shelves,
Yeah.
on the floor. All the chairs had a wooden dick sticking up in the middle of them, so there was like nowhere you could sit on a chair without that being there without you knowing. I mean, it was quite
Like
an
an
entertaining
actual physical, like it wasn't a picture on the seat of the chair. It was an
No, it
actual.
was actually a carved wooden dick. So,
Wow. Where in the hell do you buy those chairs at?
think they had them made.
That's nuts.
Yep. They're like, you want to take a seat? We're like, no, we're good. So,
Hmm. I guess that's a sure sign that that they can just stop their endeavors right there. That they know that you're not one of their kind.
right.
Hmm. Interesting.
You almost say banana again.
What?
What? I said say banana. Say banana again.
For what? So you can record me and make funny sounds? No,
No,
thanks.
I wouldn't do that, Yama. I wouldn't do that to you.
I would.
That's a good idea. Somebody should do that.
That was pretty. He sounds just like that minion. I'm telling you right now.
What's that minion's name? Kevin.
Yeah.
That's the only one I can think. Kevin and Bob. That's the only ones I can think of. Yeah, you can always just go back to the few seconds ago when you said it. There you go.
Banana.
He likes the banana in the tailpipe.
Banana, plátano, bro.
Plátano.
We got Yamo's banana up there in the top right corner.
Keep Yamo's banana away from me.
Mm-hmm.
I sure will, because you are on the United States, and I am in Mexico, bro.
My screen's all messed up, guys. Can y'all keep this interesting? Give me a second to close this out and come back.
Yeah,
Oh,
it won't go away if you close it out.
No.
Hey, Mike.
Yeah.
What's about the chat? Adam saying that, did you guys hear that John Israel recorded a promo for HVAC Overtime?
Who's John Israel?
Oh, the fat fuck that nobody likes. Well, at least me.
Is that the guy who? I ain't gonna say it.
Yeah.
Yeah, say it. I don't care.
No, I didn't hear anything about it.
Is this one of those stories that's better left alone?
Probably.
Yeah, I think so.
Is this
Well,
the
at
guy we
least-
were talking about earlier tonight, Mike?
Yeah. Yeah. Sure. Let's see if it.
But in the meantime, Wade, I heard you talking earlier about when you used to teach school.
Yeah.
You mentioned that. What did you teach?
Todd Heaton and
HVAC, I
air
assume.
conditioning at night.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like a college, school, university, huh?
Yeah, it was a
Interesting.
lot of fun until they really started to regulate everything to ridiculous levels. Like you weren't allowed to grow a brain anymore.
Hold on, Mike.
It
I
was
will
really
go to get my
bad.
dinner.
I just had to get out of it at that point. I did it for about 6 years in the evening after work, and you could actually teach the guys. We had a lab. You could take things apart. You could break them. You could fix it. You could teach them the basics, actually hands-on and all that. They came to us one year and said, we're not doing that anymore. Now you got to sit in a classroom and just read verbatim from a book, and you can't grow a brain. You can't vary from it. You can't answer questions or anything else.
So they would just give you a book and say, here, teach out of this. They wouldn't allow you to expand on the curriculum or add your own field
Nope.
experience.
No.
Which is literally one of the best reasons they have a guy. I don't know your background, of course, but somebody who has a background in the HVAC industry. That's the reason you get him to teach your classes, because he can bring more to the table than a simple book.
Oh, yeah. We had an entertaining event there one night because we do a brazing class where we have torches and everything else out and all that. And they wanted to take our entire lab, and we had a pretty significantly sized lab, and they wanted to cut it down to like the size of a broom closet. And turn the rest of it over to a Cisco lab for computers and all that. And all the administrators were there one night, and they were all in this corner, and they were talking about how there was more than enough room in this corner for like 20 students to be in here working on a piece of equipment. So I had one of my guys go grab an oxyacetylene torch, and I lit it like 3 feet from them, and they all jumped up on the table and all that. I said, "You're right. Plenty of room for about 20 guys with these right here in this corner."
Wow. Now, as far as teaching the class, before they actually made you or forced you to teach out of a book, did they allow you before that to create the curriculum?
Yep.
Did they?
Yep.
Interesting. Did you use any certain books for reference?
Oh yeah, Modern Refrigeration was the or it still is, but we use that as the Bible.
Yeah.
So we expand on it from there.
You know, because my service manager and the vice president of my company had kind of asked me if I'd be interested in just creating like a small curriculum for some of the newer guys that come in, just to kind of break them into refrigeration, because we're getting is a lot of guys, not a lot, but we're getting some guys that are fresh out of trade school. And in trade school, they don't do, in my opinion, a very good job fully discussing refrigerant theory and, you know, the whole world of refrigeration. They do, you know, household furnaces and whatnot.
Yep.
So I was going to try to somehow create a curriculum just for refrigeration. I've never done anything like that before. So since you're on the mic, you got any tips for somebody who's about to delve into that world?
Yeah, I've got some stuff I can send you that I used. The biggest thing that we used to do is we used to make it fun with hands-on.
Mm-hmm.
So we'd have the guys build vacuum chambers and put oil and water mixtures in them, for example, and try and separate them.
Nice.
So they actually got that hands-on experience. They could see that it does or it doesn't work at certain volume. We'd show them 3-phase freezes using vacuum chambers and all that. We'd have them build. We had a bunch of little refrigeration skids, nothing big, little like reach-in type skids, but it was enough where we'd have them build like Christmas trees in the winter from them. So you could run a capillary tube as your metering device into your suction line. You could just create a suction line with a bunch of loops like a Christmas tree, just expand it out up like that, and let them freeze. So we'd have a lot of fun doing that kind of stuff. We make cup holders like that. We give the guys like science fair application. But by the time we were done teaching them, because teaching is always the point of it, we could disassemble a complete skid, a refrigeration skid, just a small one, like a heat craft or something like that. Put all the pieces in a box on the floor with no wiring diagram, and they could rebuild it by the time we were done and get it up and running.
Nice. I want to go to your school, Wade. When does it start?
Well, I've been out of it for a few years now because they stopped us from doing all that.
Yeah, all the fun, all the stuff where you actually learn from.
Yes.
Because I mean, don't get me wrong, I like reading, but there's only so much, I guess, in my opinion, because I'm a hands-on learner for the most part. So a guy like me, I can learn a little bit out of the book, but unless I can actually connect that to something I can physically touch, see, and feel, I'm just going to eventually lose that little nugget of information.
Well, that's why I don't really agree with our ABC schools here. They're great schools, don't get me wrong. They're consistent. So because they all teach out of the book, and their logic is you learn from the book at school, you're supposed to get the hands-on in the field during the day at work, which is where I was teaching tried to go to. Mm-hmm. The problem with that is, like you said, okay, today I'm going to teach you refrigeration theory, but for the next week you're working on furnaces because they're cold. It's cold out. Mm-hmm. It doesn't do you any good.
Yeah, I found that specifically in my market where I'll get a guy fresh out of trade school and they're like, hey, we're going to send him with you and we want you to teach him about refrigeration and stuff. And I'm like, well, that's all fine and dandy, but I get more like AC calls than I do a lot of refrigeration calls, walk-in coolers, the big stuff that I'd like to actually take them out on and say, hey, look at this. This is how this works. That's how that works. So you really need a classroom with a lab, like you're talking about, someplace where you can say, all right, we're going to read this and we're going to go to the lab. And I'm going to show you how it actually works in person, how it physically moves this or transfers heat through this or how the pressures change in this.
Yep. Get them some A9 valves and some ORT valves and some CPRs and, let them play with that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
and actually see it. Like, I like teaching them in rack rooms, the older rack rooms, not the newer ones, the older ones where you actually had to change your EPRs with a hex key, and you had to have gauges on them. Just sit there and watch them.
Really?
Yeah, those are the best ones to teach them on, not the new automated stuff. In my opinion, you find some old rack rooms and go from there.
I've only seen one of those adjustable EPR valves. I think it was on a Frosty machine at a Wendy's restaurant. I think it was, but I never knew you can actually do it. So it's in rack rooms, a lot of the older rack rooms.
Yeah, I used to be a refrigeration engineer for Winn-Dixie, and that's all we had was the old manual stuff, and it was great because you could actually teach people to work on it.
Now, what is the purpose of having an adjustable EPR valve? Is it just in case like it gets kind of out of whack, or you need some variables that might need to be changed around?
Well, imagine, if you will, at a grocery store, for example, and for those who don't know that are watching, an EPR is a evaporator pressure regulation device.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so if we talk about purposely creating a restriction, for example, well, let me do it a different way. So let's say you have a ice cream coffin case that has ice cream in it, and let's say you have a let's say a salad case, and then let's say you have a meat case. All right, and all three of these are attached to the same rack. And let's just say we're using some standard Copeland 06D compressors, and the rack is set up to run at the coldest point, which would be able to take care of our ice cream case.
Mm-hmm.
So let's say our we're running, -30, -40 degrees on this rack. Well, how do we have a salad case and a meat case on the same rack? Well, we can install some EPRs on those, and we can keep the pressure up on the evaporator, which allows us to set those temperatures on those cases.
Now, so you don't actually, so you wouldn't actually even have like a regular mechanical temperature control or anything like that. It's just that EPR valve, right?
Just that EPR.
Oh, okay.
It's a temperature differential chart, and it's your gauges. That's it, and you can actually set it that way. Now, let's say those cases were the exact same model, serial number, everything, the same type. And you can run them low or medium or high temp, depending on what you want. And they come in and they say, okay, we're now going to move the ice cream to the back of the store and the salad to the front of the store.
Oh, okay. So that's
take those EPRs and adjust them. And now what used to be your ice cream case,
now your meat case or something.
Exactly.
Amazing.
Because you can keep cooler than you can salad. You can keep meat around 30 degrees or so. It won't freeze for a period of time that it's in the store.
Mm-hmm.
And when I say that, the meat isn't staying in 30 degrees for days at a time where it does freeze. It's always moving in and out, but you can keep it colder to keep it longer. Whereas lettuce, you don't want to keep it 32, 33, 34 degrees. You want to keep it at 36, 38. And you can make those slight adjustments with the EPR valves.
No,
interesting.
I'd never ran into one, but I used to do refrigeration also, and I went from refrigeration to working on chillers. So,
well, those what was I going to ask there? So the EPR valve sits at the outlet of the evaporator, right?
Yep.
So if you're adjusting your EPR valve, let's say it's just a regular, cooler that you want to keep at 35 degrees. So there's obviously no differential because there's no mechanical control to turn the thing off and then rise up 3 or 4 degrees. And there's probably, I'm guessing, there's no off-cycle defrost, is there?
No, there is. So it still runs like with a regular thermostat, for example. It's got a solenoid and all that.
Okay.
So the thermostat engages the solenoid, allows the refrigerant flow, things like that. And you're not going to use it on your coldest case. So if you had an ice cream case and you had a meat cooler and a salad cooler, you're only going to use them on the meat cooler and the salad cooler.
Mm-hmm.
Because you're trying to keep those pressures up. And it's just like a regular thermostat, off and on. It allows the refrigerant to flow through, and it will back that refrigerant up to keep the pressure up. But you also got to remember, when you add an EPR, you got to have a CPR. Compressor crankcase pressure regulator. That's a mouthful. So that you don't slam that compressor back.
Now, I've read about CPR valves, and when I say I do commercial stuff, I don't do rack stuff. So this is the stuff I like to read about and I like to talk about because I don't know much about it. So that CPR valve, can you elaborate a little bit more on that?
So the CPR's job is to keep the pressure back to the compressor at a constant.
You're talking about the suction pressure, because I thought
suction pressure. Yep. Because now you have, for example, on the freezer case, you have full flow. You're going to be fully saturated, fully evaporated vapor in a perfect world coming back to the compressor there. But you're not going to have that from the ones that have the EPR on them.
Oh yeah, because you're getting just a little whistle of gas coming through that EPR valve. So on that CPR valve, then, is that a self-adjusting CPR valve, or is it just like an EPR where maybe you can manually adjust it, but it's mostly a fixed restriction that's put in place?
The newer ones are electronic. They'll adjust themselves automatically. The older ones are manual. Same thing. You have a hex key right in the top, and you adjust it with your gauge right there.
Oh, interesting.
So, and personally, I like to teach the guys on the older ones.
It's probably easier to see all that stuff, and you can, like you said, you can adjust it and see how it actually works. And then when you do run into a nice fancy one that's got the electric stuff, you still remember how they actually work. Yeah. It's just now, instead of that hex key, it's got a little stepper motor or some sort of other control with it. Man, nice.
So, and you can actually do that. You can get some EPRs and things like that. The equipment won't run very long, and by very long, I mean for more than, a few classroom sessions. But you can actually do that. If you get a small refrigeration skid that's designed for a freezer, and a lot of places like Heatcraft and things like that, if you ask them, they'll donate one or two. Get a couple evaporators together, put some EPRs on them, and they'll run for, a couple semesters of class. They won't last forever because they're not set up right, but you can have some fun with them. But then you get to teach them how to rebuild a compressor when you blow the valves.
Yeah, that's something else I've never got to do either. Rebuild a compressor. I've had a couple, like I think one, maybe two K bodies. I know one I filmed, but just kind of tearing it apart, just seeing what's inside. Yeah,
I like that. Your last video where you took that scroll apart, that was pretty nice. Well, that thing was really burnt.
Oh yeah, that was pretty awesome. I was so glad when I cut it apart that it looked the way it did, because I've cut so many compressors apart and they just look like kind of bad. Like maybe you got a broken reed valve or something. But this one looks like somebody just opened up and they just hit it with like an IED, and I was pleasantly surprised. So I'm glad it looked like garbage on the inside, because that was just a bear to actually cut open and get into.
And I was laughing the whole time when you were cutting it open. I'm like, man, it looks like he must have been there hours trying to cut that thing.
It took a little bit. Three blades that I went through. Because what I was trying to do initially, I was trying to do this fancy where I could just like cut apart sections of it and take this side off, take that side off. And cutting the dome apart was, for whatever reason, harder than I thought, because it's actually partially fixed to the top of the scroll, or the top scroll plate. And so I wasn't able to cut it apart and kind of make it all pretty like I wanted to. So after about 25 minutes, I'm like, I'm just going to cut this damn thing apart no matter what it takes. And I started cutting this side, I'll cut that side, cut every side till it just kind of fell apart. Yeah, worked out pretty good.
Yeah. My wife said when she seen the video, she's like, you need to send that to my teacher. So I sent your link over, and I think he's going to play it next week in his classroom.
Nice. So, very cool. Is she going to school for refrigeration or something?
HVAC.
Oh, interesting. I feel like I'd heard that at some point in time, but totally didn't know that right now.
Yeah, she has a few weeks left. I think she graduates the 19th of November, the 18th or the 19th.
Interesting.
And Justin P. HVAC says he works on a few old rack rooms at 2 old IGAs we take care of. It's a lot of fun. They really are.
I haven't heard of IGA in a long time. Every IGA in my hometown went out of business. But yeah, they were, I imagine, since they're an older brand, they probably had a lot of old stuff. I've been even trying to find anybody I know who like works at a grocery store. I've been trying to work my way in there and just say, hey, can I just look at your rack room, your mechanical room? Can I just walk around there with my phone, record a little bit? But I haven't met the right person yet that'll allow me to do that. But on the one video I had up and away where I used my ladder crane or whatever, I was on an adjoining roof to an Aldi grocery store, and I was kind of playing around just looking at their condensing unit, and they have their rack room right up on the roof. It's like a big sealed room. It looks kind of like a walk-in cooler, which kind of, I thought that was odd. Do they all look that way? Like if they're out on the roof, like a big insulated room like that?
So we had on our ones that were up on the roofs, we had what was called Seasons 4s. And I'm here to tell you, any rack room that's on a roof, it is a godsend in the winter, in the summer, it's raining, whatever, because it's not like a commercial condenser where you're standing outside of it, taking off panels and working on it. You actually open the doors and you climb up into this thing, and you have rows of compressors and everything else running down either side of it. It's a full rack room you can walk into and work, lights, air conditioning, everything.
Yeah, that's what this one was set up. It didn't have air conditioning inside of it though. It had a giant fan that was mounted to one end of the wall, and like the other side I think was just like baffles. And I don't know, there's probably a thermostat or something I assume hooked up to that would kick it on. But no, it looked, I didn't have the gumption or the gusto to just walk in there. I'm like, I better not walk in there. I just felt if I walked in there, something stupid would happen. I'd slip on a banana peel, fall into a control, shut down the entire system, and so I'm like, I'll just leave it at. I just opened the door, peeked in there, and I thought it was. They must have had 10, 15 compressors in there, and some sort of giant wall of controls. But
those are my favorite all time. If I could go back to doing anything, it would be working in those rack rooms.
Yeah.
And really, honestly, you show up, you got your earphones in, no one's bothering you. You're checking your heads on the compressors, you're checking your oils, you're checking all this stuff, and you can literally get a rolling chair, sit on that thing, and just enjoy yourself. No phones blowing up. You can rebuild compressors, change oil, do all sorts of stuff, and just do what you're trained to do and enjoy.
How is the on-call sort of deal with rack refrigeration? I've heard that whenever you're on call, just expect to be gone for the entire week.
Yep. When you're on call because there's if a refrigeration system for a supermarket, for example, is set up correctly, your freezers and your coolers are going to be the last things on that rack, last on the circuit, everything else. So imagine, if you walked into a store and you had coffin cases, the open ones, remember the old ones you used to reach into, or the stand-ups, things like that. And imagine the very first one you come to is the first one on the rack. And as you move towards the back of the store, it's going further down the rack. All right. Well, we build them with the freezers and the coolers at the very end of the rack, or at the end of the circuit. So if you start to lose refrigerant, for example, you can actually see the progression move through the store. So that first case, when you come in the door, will start to get warm, and then the next one, and then the next one, and so on and so forth. So it allows them to pull their product and put it in the cooler or the freezer in the back to try and save the product, because that's really what it is. And you're dealing with thousands of pounds of refrigerant.
I've heard something like 15, 20,000 pounds of like R22 and stuff.
The ones we were working on were 1,000 to 1,500 pounds. But you'll get that call at 8 o'clock at night that the first couple coolers are going warm, or freezers up front, and you just know that you're going to go in there and you're going to have to leak check, and you're going to be there all night trying to find this leak and repair it so that you can save the freezers and the coolers in the back full of product.
Nice. Maybe I'll stick to just reading about it and talking to guys like you about it, because that just sounds like a nightmare. I mean, it sounds interesting until it's Friday at like 8 o'clock when you've already had a long day. Yep. And then you go there and they're like, yeah, we got a leak somewhere. And it could be, I've heard too that they have underground piping a lot of times. Yep. So you have to go in the underground trenches, and you're trying to find this leak in miles and miles of piping, I would assume.
Yep. So the newer stores stores, they do the piping overhead because it's more industrial looking and it looks good. But the
Mhm.
bonus to that is it helps us out for leaks. The older stores, they used to use sand trenches. So you'd have like a tunnel that went under the store full of sand and all that. And the pipes would be insulated, and they'd come up in these sand boxes in front of the coolers and the regions and all that. And then they'd go in. And those were a nightmare to try and hunt down a leak in. And I'm going to throw out a really old term here. The only way we could really find them was with halides.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Propane torch.
Yep. Propane torch.
Yeah.
So wait for that color to change in the flame, and you knew you were close.
And that gas to hit your lungs, and you're like, I think we got a leak. Yeah.
Good old Fagini. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
What's the purpose of the sand, though? I don't understand. Is it just insulating, or does it help with like vibration, or
helps with vibrations and shifting? So instead of being in like concrete or tubing,
where it's going to move and expand.
Yeah, expand traction, helps cut down on breaks and cracks and things like that.
Now that reminds me, I was going to ask you this earlier. With some of those, we were talking about EPR valves. Those freezers, is it common to have hot gas defrost in there?
It is.
Or is it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Hot gas is great. And if you have a hot gas system, then you can do heat recovery as well. Heat reclaim.
Where they route the hot gas like back up into the ductwork and stuff.
Even in the summer and winter, our condensers would barely run because we used our hot gas reclaim for our hot water, for our heating in the coils. We'd steal all of it, every bit we could before it even went to the condensers.
That's amazing. Did you ever actually install piping like that? Go to a brand new build and run all that stuff?
Yeah, we had Hurricane Isabel out here, and I ripped all sorts of Seasons 4s and equipment, all that off the roof. So we had to go and redo it all from scratch.
Really?
Yep.
How long did that take?
Took a couple months. Once you get the water down in the pipes and all that, it's done.
You just got to take it right out. Yeah.
So, and
that's
another interesting thing, because you're doing refrigeration and you have so many different temperature zones, you do create at some times, you create a condensation issue. And I remember I had a real hard time working on this one freezer case, and it kept getting me. Every time I'd go there, it'd be fine. It'd be working great. TXV would be metering. Temperatures are great. I'd leave. I'd get a phone call. Case is warm. I'd come back, and it'd be fine. Doesn't make any sense. What it was there was just enough moisture in the lines because of the temperature differentials that the screens would freeze on the TXV. It would go into hot gas defrost, melt that water, and go through the system.
Oh, yeah.
Start working right again.
Now, speaking of that hot gas defrost, did you ever notice a problem with the piping cracking from all that expansion and contracting every time I'm going to defrost? Was that a common issue in those?
No, not really. I never really experienced that. Once again, that sand and all that would allow that. And It is a good point, though, to recognize that you're going from a pipe that could be 45 degrees or negative 20, and you're dumping 200-degree hot gas in it instantaneously. So you do have the potential of that happening. I never had it personally happen, but it could.
Interesting.
Yamo's getting his grub on, guys.
Hey, what are you eating, Yamo?
Bananas.
What?
Tortas? Tamales? Pizza? They got pizza in Mexico, huh?
He's eating banana.
Interesting.
You know, and a lot of people get scared about refrigeration. Refrigeration is the easiest part of our trade. But it is true that you can take a refrigeration man and put him in an HVAC world, but you can't take an HVAC tech and put him in the refrigeration world.
Oh, you'll do it all different, won't you?
Well, nowadays you have more thermal expansion valves in residential units and things like that. But 15, 20 years ago, you didn't. You had a standard metering device. You had a standard TD. It had to be this. You had no slide and glide, anything. So when you took an HVAC man and put him in a refrigeration case and you told him it could be anywhere between 7 and 30 degrees superheat, they looked at you like you were crazy.
that kind of brings me back to I think his name was Isho in the comments. Asked a question earlier about how we all got started in the trades, and your point there is it reminded me of like when I was starting up in the trades. I kind of came in at both sides of it. I came in working on HVAC and refrigeration because I started off as a maintenance guy for Wendy's, and they basically gave me a truck full of parts, kind of parts cannon, and they're just like, go fix stuff. And I just kind of learned both sides of it as I was coming up. But how did you, Wade? How did you come up in the trades?
I came up in refrigeration and things like that, and then made the jump over to regular HVAC.
Yeah.
Got out of refrigeration, went to residential, and then I got out of residential, went into commercial.
Out of all three of those, what do you like better?
Right now, I really like VRFs. So I'm enjoying designing and laying out VRFs and starting up and commissioning them. But they're a lot like refrigeration, so that's why.
Yeah, so it's similar.
Yep.
Interesting. That's another thing I never get to work on is VRFs. I think maybe I've seen 2 in person that I've actually got to put hands on and play with.
They're a lot of fun. If you understand that everything you know about a split system, throw it out the window, you'll be fine.
Interesting. So everything you know about a split system, just totally forget, huh?
Yep. So, for example, and there's a lot of, it's a lot like Ford, Lincoln, Mercury. It's a lot like Ford versus Chevy guys, things like that. Everybody's got a favorite. Everybody's got one that they think is better than the rest. My personal favorite is LG. I like LG. Some guys will be like, that's the Fords of VRF. I don't think so. I think they're the better of Dakins and everything else. But once you understand them, they are so simple, it's ridiculous. And getting people to understand them is the hard part. For example, in the LGs and most all of them, you have a split condenser, and you can be heating and cooling in your condenser at the same time. And that just blows people's minds. So that you can actually valve off your condenser and have half the unit running in heating and half of it running in cooling.
Yeah, because you got one room that's too cold, and obviously one room that's not too cold. I've read about that.
Yep.
But I've never actually knew how that works. So I assume there's just zone valves, right? So this zone has a valve. So if that particular room okay, let me lay out an example here before I confuse myself. So we got one room that needs to cool, one room that needs to heat. They both have thermostats. They're both sending a thermostat back to like a main control, which sends a signal to like a branch box that essentially has the valves in it, and that's what sends the gas. Instead of the compressor sending the hot gas to the condenser, it'll send the hot gas to that room that needs to heat, right? And then opposite, it'll take the liquid back to the room that needs to be cooled. So is that controlled, I assume, by one main controller that's just operating valve in a branch box? Is that how it works?
So there's a couple different ways it can happen. And I'm going to go over the LG in comparison to the, I want to say, don't quote me on this, I want to say it's the Mitsubishi that's different.
I'm going to write it down so I can quote you on it.
Yeah. The LG has a 3-pipe system. Carrier, I want to say, has a 2-pipe system, and everybody says, oh, 2 pipes better because you don't have to run the 3rd pipe. You less labor and everything else. I think the 3-pipe system's better because I have a constant, no matter what time of the year, hot gas, liquid, and suction. So constant throughout the year. So it doesn't matter if it's 100 degrees outside or -5. I have those 3 constants at all times for coming to or from my condensers to my heat boxes, to my branch boxes. So, and then I have my standard liquid and suction coming off of the branch box to my indoor units. Based off of my valve assembly, if I want heat, for example, I have an instantaneous drop in hot gas right into that equipment. So I have no delay, no waiting. I'm not mixing in my branch boxes, things like that. Where so some of the 2-pipe systems just have a constant liquid and suction.
So with a 2-pipe, then you can't get that. Like you can't have one room that's heating and one room that's cooling. Then with a 2-pipe system,
But what it does is instead of opening a valve for hot gas just to dump it in there to create the heating effect, it opens another valve and it's got sort of like a heat exchanger in the box, and it creates a heat exchanger type effect to create that hot gas to go over there. So it's not so much as instantaneous as it has to build up to it like your car warming up.
Oh, so that when it kicks that valve open, it'll like maybe go through a metering device or whatever, flash off, and then. Oh, that seems a lot less efficient.
It is. They're great. Don't get me wrong. Either one's good. But in my opinion, it's a lot less efficient. Dakins are so much more work. You know, you hear Dakin is this great product, and it is. It's all about the install. Like you said, I think it was you earlier that said Goodman's. Or Gil did about the Goodman's.
Just noticed Nick's hat.
Yeah. It's all about the install. It's all about the prep. I've got jobs here in Richmond we get called into where, you know, you got plumbers that installed it for a mechanical company because pipe's pipe or refrigerant's refrigerant. And they don't understand the intricacies and the rules and the details. And you end up back on these massive warranty calls that give it a bad, give VRF a really bad name. So it's all about the setup. It's all about the install. It's all about understanding how it works. If you understand how the VRF systems work, and I think it's Dakin that they're called VRVs and Mitsubishi something else. Each one has a trademarked name for their equipment, but it all means the same thing. It's all variable flow refrigerant. So we'll get phone calls on those where they're like, the equipment's running really slow. We're not sure it's doing its job. Well, it's supposed to run slow. If a VRF is running balls to the wall, something's wrong. Because it's designed, if it's done right, to run at the minimum it has to do the job it needs to.
Is it kind of, I don't know if it uses inverter technology, but is it sort of like some of the newer inverters that I hear about where it basically runs all the time, but it just ramps up and ramps down? Is that basically it? Yeah, okay.
Yep.
So, yeah, you do want it to run all the time, just not, like you said, balls to the wall.
So we've got a couple accounts that have the equipment on lower roofs, and we'll just go up to the top roof, and you can look down and you can tell which ones are having problems because they're all the same. The building's set the same. And you'll see these two over here, the fans spinning, just going nuts. And these over here barely turning. The ones going nuts are the first ones I'm going to go to and look at.
Interesting.
Yeah.
What part of the country are you in, Wade?
Richmond, Virginia.
Oh, okay.
So
I was going to say, if you're nearby, I was going to drive down there and tag along one day and see if I can see some of this crazy stuff.
Oh, we got some crazy stuff. We get called out. We're one of the top people here in Central Virginia. So we get called into a lot of the fuckery, let's just say.
Yeah.
So, and I'm constantly doing reports on some of this stuff, and I've seen some of this stuff installed pretty much everywhere, but upside down and backwards.
Nice.
I get called into a lot of that fuckery too.
Yep.
Well, every once in a while, that Run Cat Bandit will go off and start his own company.
Oh,
That's what you get.
That's exactly what you get. I haven't heard that term in forever, the old Run Cat Bandit.
Yeah, Run Cat Bandit. I haven't seen him in a while, but once a year I'll see one in person. But
yeah, actually,
employees, electrical tape, and cardboard boxes.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say the other day. I had the week. Let's see, what was it? Last week. It seemed like about every third unit I went to, the Run Cat Bandit had struck. That they'd be the capacitor inside the box, just laying inside the unit. And, I'm taking pictures of these and I'm sending them to my boss. And I'm like, do these guys not know what plumber's ribbon is? I mean, it's that easy. 2 screws, a little piece of ribbon, put it in there. But no, they'll stick it in. They'll tape the boxes. If it's on for like a blower motor, they'll tape the box to the wires and you can just pick the capacitor up out of the box. But it's a perfect little holder for it, but I don't know.
Like, come on, guys, you put more work into that than you did doing it right.
Yeah. Just a little chunk of plumber straps. Throw it on there. Some people's kids, though.
Yeah.
Yeah, the chat slowed down. I don't actually know how many. Has anybody got YouTube open? How many people's actually in the chat?
Oh, we got 12 watching. They probably all left as soon as I started grilling Wade and all these questions about EPRs and. But I can't help. I'm a curious guy. I can't help it.
Yeah, it was informative. I mean, I've never worked with those, so.
Yeah, neither have I only read about them, and it sounds pretty interesting, but the whole idea of actually doing all this stuff at like 10, 11 o'clock at night after you've been working all day and the whole on-call thing, I think that's what is more intimidating than anything. I don't know how you can do it.
One of the big problems we had at one point with these things, the 06Ds, for example, you had this Carlisle or Copeland oil control. I forget which one made it. It was just a digital control that got mounted on the front with a sensor that went to the oil pump. And these things were forever burning out. So you'd go down there, you go to the store, you find out it's burned out, you'd bypass it like it wasn't even there till you get a new one to put it in. Well, I had to drive to Goldsboro, North Carolina one weekend. I got a phone call at 8 o'clock at night. That's almost 6 hours from me. So I drive down there. It's 2 in the morning. I get to them. They're out on oil. I'm like, oh, well, you know what? It's just a bad oil switch, whatever. That I bypassed them, went on home, turned around and went back home. Got a call from my boss the next day. He goes, hey, did you bypass those switches? I said, hell yeah, I did. He goes, did you check the oil screens? I said, nope. So that explains why we have 4 burn-up compressors down there. Oops.
Oh, my. How'd the rest of that conversation go?
He said, what did we learn? I said, I'm going to check the oil screens from now on.
So they went off for a reason. They weren't just bad. They actually were doing their job. And then you're like, nope, we're just going to put a wire nut on them bastards.
That's what we did, and we rolled. That's that on-call, though.
I've made dumber mistakes. I remember when I was first starting, I guess segueing into dumb mistakes real quick, I always like to share this story about how stupid people can be when they were first learning the trades. I had a compressor that I was installing in a reach-in cooler, and this was before I learned about couplings and simple things like that. And the line set wouldn't fit into the compressor. I'm like, no big deal. I just swedge the part of the tube coming off the compressor. I mean, why not? That made sense at the time. I put my little, because I had the little swedging tool that is, about yay long. Just put it in the pipe, hit it with a hammer, put that thing on there, hit it with a hammer one time, knock that tube right off the compressor. Yep. Had to call my boss and be like, oh, we need to buy another compressor. I'm like, didn't we just buy a compressor? I'm like, yeah, we did, but there's no fixing it.
We call those bobs, bad out of the box.
Yeah, that's what I should have done, see. But I was a rookie at the time, so nowadays I would just totally UPS and blame it on the UPS guy. He must have kicked it off the truck.
Yeah, I broke a lady's furnace last week. It was a oil furnace. Went to change the nozzle. I guess the previous tech had cross-threaded it in there. I had the nozzle wrench, I stuck it in there, tried to break it loose, and it was harder than hell. And I really got into it and twisted the damn brass fitting come off the oil tube. So I had to change the whole tube and everything. And it was a pain in the ass because it had to be a special order. Yamo, your mic is kind of noisy over there. I don't know.
Let me turn on the fan.
Do you have a piece of pizza on your microphone?
Better?
Yeah, it took care of it.
Hey, is Adam still in here?
Yeah, let me turn on my minute plate.
I haven't seen anybody else talking lately.
No, I haven't seen Adam. Haven't seen Justin. I
wasn't sure, Mike. Did you want to? I was talking to Adam earlier about possibly doing a hangout tonight, but we were kind of confused as to what channel to host it on. Did you want to do a hangout tonight?
Oh, we can. Yeah.
Okay.
Sure.
Yeah.
Because I don't know who can. I still don't know how to host stuff like that, so I have to depend on one of you other guys if you guys want to host one. But I don't know where he went though. He was.
You get a chance, man. I'll show you. I mean, it's not a big deal.
Yeah, it doesn't seem to be too hard. I just gotta actually sit down and figure it out. Gil says he's down for a hangout.
Is Gil back?
Yeah.
He's on his way.
Okay.
It looks like he's just in the chat talking right now.
Okay.
Well,
Did
guys,
you
I
want-
need to go ahead and get up out of here for the night.
Hey Wade, you you're not on Facebook currently, are you?
Yeah, well, I am. I'm just not allowed to do anything.
Okay. Well, I'm gonna send you a friend request
Okay.
because I about every 37 seconds I have one of these questions about supermarket refrigeration flow into my brain, and I'm gonna write it down and I'm gonna send it to you.
Okay.
Oh boy.
So,
Yeah, we're going to get
send me a
cool
friend
on here.
request, and then put your email address in it, and I'll send you an email until I get out of Facebook state pen.
yeah, Facebook jail.
Yep.
Well, shoot, I appreciate the knowledge you brought to the table tonight because it was a good little conversation there.
Not a problem. Anytime, and I'll see you guys next Saturday night.
I'm gonna have to
Awesome.
get Bill on here more often so he can drill the guests and stuff. He's pretty good at it.
I'm a curious guy. What can I say?
Curious HVAC guy. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
name fits.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I had some notes, so I didn't get to all of them. But
Yeah, he comes prepared.
when I have my sunglasses on, I'm sarcastic. With my sunglasses off, it's question time.
Yeah, actually, Wade is going to be a regular on the show. I've asked Wade, and he said he was game. So,
Good.
and
Well,
Bill said he would come in quite often. So,
yeah. Thank
please,
you.
you guys help me get this going. And I think it's a pretty good show.
Yep,
So-
it's one that I would. I'll probably attach a link to it and share it with anybody on my Facebook page that's willing to watch it.
Yeah, I appreciate that too.
So
I'd like to see Yamo record some of the equipment down there he's working on and show us one night. I think that might be.
mhm.
Yamo gets into some shit. I'm gonna tell you right
Yeah.
now.
There's some definite, since there's no licensing down there, I bet you there's some definite entertaining stuff we could run across.
I've got
Oh,
Yeah.
I've got pictures of a compressor. I'll have to show you.
Yeah, show it.
Diapers on mini splits.
Yeah,
Yeah.
diaper.
Yeah. All right, guys. We'll see you all later.
Yeah.
Hey,
Okay. And
Thanks, Wade.
No problem.
Curious, just hit me up when you're ready. Hit me up on Facebook when you're ready, and I'll join in on that hangout. Or
All right.
if you want me to host it, it don't matter.
Yeah. Adam was seeing if you just wanted to host it, we'll just close this out, and then if you want to host it, we'll just come right back on here.
Oh, that's good. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Well, I'm going to go ahead and end the broadcast. Everybody, I appreciate you joining my show, and it'll be same time, same day each week, Saturday night, 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and hopefully we'll get some other interesting guys in here next week also. But peace.
See you guys.
Thank you.